1. I've been working in the restaurant industry for about over a year now. The restaurant I work at is a pretty popular corporate chain restaurant that gets a steady stream of customers per night. The problem is, the whole restaurant is basically a shit show. Firstly, we are severely short-staffed on literally every position, from host to even the dishwashers and chefs. Already, we have had 3 people quit within the span of 3 days. 2 walked out mid-shift, and one of the 2 only lasted a day and a half before walking out and blocking the restaurant's number. We have many more people quitting because school is coming up. Management is shit at doing their jobs when it comes to hiring, as apparently they have many applicants but keep turning them down because apparently they think people don't want to work there anyways. I don't get this either. This is what I heard from the supervisor, who is also looking to quit as soon as she received news that she is hired at another job she applied for. She worked there for 4+ years, only to be treated also like shit now. I was also promised a promotion to Chef 2 a month and a half ago, as I'm a busser. Now, since we are short-staffed, I am now a dishwasher and a busser as well. Every time I look at my schedule and it says dishwasher, I literally feel anger rising. I am the 2 positions that leave the latest in the whole restaurant. I regularly leave at 12 a.m. on the weekdays to 2 a.m. on the weekends. I am in college as well, and I need time to study. It doesn't help that I regularly am scheduled for 6 to 8 hour shifts. Another problem is that a coworker has been falsely claiming that I've been stealing tips from the servers. This guy is someone I personally recommended and brought in, and someone I thought I could call a friend. As we all work in the restaurant industry, obviously, we all know how serious of a situation stealing tips is. One thing I can give my managers props for is checking the security camera all the time. They check the cams for people not doing side work, closing work, customers trying to scam the restaurant, etc. Point is, they're always looking at the cameras, so if I was stealing tips, I would have already been fired. This has caused a serious strain on our friendship, and although nothing has escalated yet, it is very awkward right now for both of us. We don't exchange words, not even hello or goodbye. We can't even be in the same area because of the awkwardness. Given these circumstances, I'm thinking the next time the schedule comes out, and see I'm still a dishwasher and busser, that very day, I'm going to hand in my 2 weeks. What would you guys do in this situation? Not asking for you guys to make a decision for me, but I want to see what you guys would do in this situation. Stay and tough it out, or get out while you can. Thank you in advance. 2. Much like everyone, we are understaffed at the restaurant I'm at, even though it's pretty okay now. During the peak of COVID, though, we were desperate to hire anyone. And there's 2 warm bodies I'll never forget. One was a girl, AJ, and a guy, Adam. I trained both of them. Adam's wasn't good, though, because they had me getting triple sat in a 7-table section while I'm asking him what's in this sandwich, but I digress. They made it across to the other side, at least. My god, these 2 were specimens. Adam had strong golden retriever energy, which to me meant he was a bit dim but still well-liked and a decent dude. The term himbo is also accurate. AJ, poor girl. She was not made to work in this industry. Every week she was requesting anyone to pick up her shifts because she felt like she was dying and an anxious mess working the usual 35 to 40 hours with an amount of doubles. And no one would because, well, all of us were working that and even more. Not downplaying how she felt, but she is someone I think of when people say anyone can do this. And neither had serving experience. When they were on, it wasn't a good shift for anyone. Pocketed checks, missed rings or missing orders, taking food to the wrong tables, complaints about a 3-table section, then complaints about a 5-table section. Adam was sent home for being an hour late at least twice. AJ would have to hide in the back to compose herself when she was getting overwhelmed. They were detrimental more often than not. I didn't really dislike them, just how much they held us back more than anything. They weren't bad people, just bad servers. The tipping point, though, for management, is they were hiding in our back storage area vaping, and when one manager found them and asked what they were doing, Adam finished ripping a fat hit blue and sarcastically replied, "Nicotine?" Manager says he felt his heart clench from how mad he got on the spot and went back to talk to the GM. Then they were immediately fired. Then we were told to never vapor smoke in the restaurant. Anyway, I'm just thinking of how many people have come and gone specifically in the last year, and those 2. will always be in the back of my head. Plus, at least be smarter about where you take a hit. I know so many people that do there. 3. This was around 7 or 8 years ago. Background: I, 21 female, was a manager of a tiny coffee unit in a home base, a DIY and home store in the UK, in a retail park. It was one of 2 coffee shops in the retail park, and there were 2 fast food places nearby too. Our competitor coffee shop was 3 times the size of us, and had a huge coffee machine which could make multiple coffees at once, 8 if you're efficient, whereas my machine could make 2 at once. I worked 10-hour days without break as we didn't have the staffing budget to cover any breaks, or have multiple staff on except Saturdays for 3.5 hours. It was the middle of the week and it was much busier than usual. I noticed this and made up more sandwiches and toasties than usual. Around 10:30 a.m, a random customer I was chatting to told me the competitor coffee shop's machine was down and they were closed. I was so grateful they told me, and then I could prep as much as I could, fill my counters to bursting, and make up as many sandwiches and toasties as could fit in my display fridge and behind counter fridges, and call around my team to see if anyone could help. Bad news, no one could help, so I had to fly solo. I braced myself for the onslaught and asked the store manager for Homebase to ask their team to clear some tables on occasion and pop them on the other side of the counter, as I'll be on my own. They agreed, and held a team meeting. 11:45 a.m, I start getting a bit of a queue. Most people were staff from other units on break, many being my regulars. 12 p.m, and I'm heavingly busy non-stop. Many were new customers who didn't even know this coffee shop existed, some becoming future regulars. My queue was huge and stretched far into Homebase aisles. Every customer received personalized customer service from me at my top speeds. I was nicknamed a super octopus by some young customers who swore I had hidden arms. It was around 12:35 to 12:40 p.m. when I noticed the soon-to-be Karen around 4 spaces back in the queue, with her face glued to her phone, not noticing an elderly customer trying to get past in her mobility scooter. My incredible regular customer alerted her before I could. It was finally IRC's return to be served with Karen behind her. We chatted our usual updates as I was sorting payment and passing her drink over, already made her usual in the previous batch of drinks, and she heads up to the coffee station. When suddenly a loud, "What the actual fuck?" erupted from Karen. She marched from the fridge to the counter. "Where the fuck are the sandwiches and toasties?" "Afternoon, thank you for waiting. Unfortunately, we have sold out for the moment due to the lunch rush. I am happy to make— This is absolutely fucking disgraceful. I've waited over an hour in this queue. Why the fuck did you not buy more?" She had only waited a maximum of 30 to 35 minutes, which is still a long time. "I understand your frustration and thank you for your patience, but I'd appreciate it if you could refrain from that type of language as there are children around. We make all our sandwiches and toasties by hand, and I want to speak to your manager. I am the manager, and if you'd let me finish, I can make you a sandwich or toastie to order. It will take a couple of minutes to prepare, longer if it needs toasting. Which one would you like?" And then she cursed again and questioned my mental capacity. IRC, who collected some tables in and popped them on the side for me. "Whoa there, don't speak to her like that. I also had to wait in the same queue as you, while Mrs. kindly offered to make you some food to order. Why don't you calm down and see what amazing service you're being offered despite Miss being on her own with massive queues. Anyway, I need to get off to my appointment. Thank you, the coffee is delicious as always." During this, Karen stood silently enraged. "How the fuck could you be the manager if you can't even stock your fridge for lunch? Do you expect people to starve? Fucking pathetic." Again, do not use offensive language in here. I have offered to make you food to order. There are also many other food items available too. A gesture. Or alternatively, you may go to McDonald's or KFC just across the park. Up to you. What would you like? She slams her hands on the counter and yells, "What do you not understand? There is nothing here. This place is pathetic. Stop being so patronizing and get me a fucking toastie." And then she, again, questions my mental capacity. "Right, that's the last straw. I'm not serving you. Your behavior and language is unacceptable, and you cannot be reasoned with. Now leave and go elsewhere." Karen screams in rage, stomps off to my side counter, throws a dirty little latte glass behind my counter at me, and flips multiple chairs while stomping to the exit, growling. I had to apologize to the remaining customers in the queue for the additional wait, while I cleaned all the smashed glass and offered them all a free cake, fruit, or pack of crisps for the patients. Everyone refused the freebies, and some wanted to tip, but we weren't allowed to accept them. You, my sweet old lady.
You, dear, are incredible. You handled that professionally, and I'm so sorry you had to go through that. I can tell you're wasted here and deserve so much better. I hope you'll get to really shine sometime soon.
The sweet old lady was the last in my queue, and we chatted for a while as I made her order. She asked what my recommendation for cakes was, and which one my favorite is. She bought it, and asked for it to be in a to-go bag. Then passed it back to me and said,
I heard you don't accept tips, but I can see you haven't had any lunch. Please be mindful of your sugar levels after such stress, and promise me you'll eat this soon, okay?
As she left, the store manager prick came over to tell me the Karen situation was hilarious to watch. He thanked me for the entertainment and walked off. Not once did he or any of his staff clear a table or offer any form of help, despite me helping their customers frequently and doing favors. That stopped from that day on. Later in the evening, one of the staff from the competitor coffee shop came over to the counter with a bag in hand. She told me that one of the other shop staff, who she is friends with, snapped a pic of my hectic coffee shop and sent it to her and her manager. She then passed me a bag, and said she and her manager personally came back to their cafe and packed up a hamper for me to apologize for all the stress I'd gone through because of their coffee machine issue. I know this doesn't make up for it, but hopefully these will take the edge off, and you can share them with your family for the next couple of nights. They're also great to freeze if you can't finish them. Our engineer will be there to repair in the early morning. We'll send someone over to let you know it's fixed. Take care. The hamper was full of cakes, fruit, biscuits, and more from their cafe. None were short-dated. I later found out that I had around 17 positive customer comments from that day that store manager prick had torn up and thrown out. 4. I'm having a really hard time, sometimes following all the horrible stories about customers abusing servers, bartenders, and any other industry workers, and the managers not taking actions against it. Not only do you have insensitive people who behave like assholes by comping their bills, but they'll also create a hostile work environment for anyone working. It's a mess, especially in the US where the customer's king attitude really seems common. Not so much in the EU, even though you might have a useless manager as well. Anyways, here's a story of my ex-boss, P, back when I was younger and working as a bartender. This guy was not only a shift manager, but also the restaurant manager. And even though he could be really demanding and a bit harsh at times, he would be the first to offer help to any servers or bartenders when shit was hitting the fan. The dude literally started cleaning glasses mid-shift, so we bartenders could focus on just getting our drinks out. He would also make sure that when he gave you shit during your shift for not working the way he wanted you to, that he would come back later and tell you that you did an amazing job this evening. Anyways, a few years before P was running the restaurant I was working at, he was managing a hotel restaurant. Unluckily, the hotel was also near a horse racing track, so a few times a year during the horse races and the corresponding festivities, rich and entitled folk would become the main guests of the hotel. One day in the dining room of the restaurant, a man and his teenage son, who were both visiting the horse race, were eating. Imagine the typical entitled asshole that thinks just because they're paying to eat, they can do whatever they want. The father starts joking around and trying to flirt with, or harass, their server, who was around 16 years old at the time, as she was doing a hotelier apprenticeship, to show off in front of his son. Mid-shift, P finds the apprentice crying in the back of the restaurant, and as he's asking her what happened, he reveals the man told her if she wanted to see a real cock, she could come to his hotel room later, and she doesn't want to serve them anymore. So P does P things. He walks up to the table, grabs a tablecloth by its four corners, food, glasses, everything's still on the table, pulls it off while they're literally just eating, and tells them to fuck off and not come back. He's comping the tab, they just have to get the fuck out immediately. He also walked up to the hotel manager and told him if he has to face consequences for that, he will gladly take them. But he will not accept this behavior as long as he's managing the restaurant. Hotel manager backed him up. I still can't believe there's managers out there who don't have their staff's back. If you work in a place where you feel like your managers are letting customers abuse you, quit. You deserve better. 5. Our story begins at a small, fast casual chain restaurant, with a total staff of about 16 people. Due to staffing issues, shifts were run with the absolute bare minimum, the skeleton of a skeleton crew. Enter the co-worker. We'll call her Jane. Now, Jane was an interesting case, about 16 or 17. In our 1 year of having her, she caused us no end of trouble. Constantly late to her shifts, damaging or breaking nearly everything in the store, multiple issues with customers, ranging anywhere from bad attitude to how did we not get sued. The list goes on. By this point, most everyone in the store was beyond frustrated with her antics. But because of the staffing problems, she never got fired. The day of the incident, I was working a double. I was closing with Jane in the kitchen after my lunch break, much to my chagrin. When I return from lunch break, however, I see a different co-worker, Adam, in the kitchen instead. He lets me know he traded shifts with Jane and that she'll be in at 6. Mood considerably lifted. We get to work, 6 o'clock rolls around with no sign of Jane. We waited for about 15 more minutes, then call her back to ask her where she is. She responds that she's not emotionally stable enough to come in right now, then promises she'll be 20 minutes and hangs up. Everyone's a strange combination of baffled, concerned, and annoyed at this. But there's not much time to think on it, as we're now thick in our dinner rush, and it's shaping up to be one of our busiest. 7 o'clock, and everyone's furious. We're already stressed from such a busy day. Front is livid that Jane ditched them. I'm angry because we've been dealing with this nonsense for months, and the manager, who wasn't in that day, but we'd been updating him on the situation, is similarly displeased. Eventually, we all agree that if Jane comes in, we'll just send her home right away. She'd already missed a good 75% of her shift, and we had enough people to close without her. And then, Adam gets a call. It's Jane. She insists she'll be in to close, just give her 10 minutes, but Adam is firm that if she comes in, we'll just send her home and not to bother. There's some back and forth, and eventually they hang up. We think that's the end of it, but no. 20 minutes later, and who shows up but Jane, completely and utterly wasted. I'm stunned she could even walk. She clocks in despite our protests and takes one man's order, slurring her words so badly he has to ask her to repeat herself about 4 times. Then she heads to the back, sitting on the floor and staring into space. Everyone, and I do mean everyone, in the store tells her to go home, but she's adamant that she doesn't mind and that it's okay. It takes about 3 of us cornering her in the back and repeatedly telling her to get out and go home before she finally leaves. We all breathe a sigh of relief and get back to closing, only to find the bottle of tequila she'd brought in and hidden, quite poorly, behind the register. The next day, 5 of us, completely independently of each other, put in our 2 weeks' notices. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 152. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you enjoyed the video, then please do like and subscribe. If you haven't done so already, comments are also appreciated. Alright, I believe I have at least one birthday shout-out to do. It's a bit belated, but not working computer, and I'm also feeling like crap too. Just got over feeling ill, and I'm feeling like crap again. Ain't life fucking wonderful? Alright, let's see. This shout-out goes to Karen. Your sister Sharon sends in a birthday shout-out. Birthday was on the 21st. No idea how old they were, but we won't ask if it's not supplied. I hope you have had a very wonderful birthday, and, well, it's the weekend, so you should still be getting treats as far as I'm concerned. Also have another belated birthday shout-out. This one goes to Kathy, and her birthday was on the 11th of September. Best if you have a birthday shout-out to send it to my email and not Facebook. I never check Facebook. I really need to just remove it from everything. I hate that site, I really do. Okay. And before we go, I'd like to sing happy birthday to both. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Karen, dear Kathy. Happy birthday to you. Alright, and on that note, I think we'll wrap things up there for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.